My father called me at 6:14 in the morning after 3 years of silence and said, "You need to send your sister money today. Not hello, not are you alive? Money." I was standing in my kitchen barefoot making coffee before work when his name lit up my phone. For a second, I thought somebody died. Instead, he said, "Your sister's being evicted." Then he added, "You owe this family after everything we did for you." That sentence almost made me choke laughing. At 15, I bought my own winter coat from a thrift store because my parents said money was tight. 2 weeks later, they surprised my younger sister Kayla with a Jeep for her birthday. That was my family. Kayla got rescued. I got lectures about responsibility. When I got accepted into college, my dad said, "Don't expect help." When Kayla dropped out twice, my mom called her stressed. By 23, I stopped visiting except holidays. By 26, I stopped doing that too. Then I moved from Ohio to Seattle and built a life nobody in my family bothered learning about. The silence lasted 3 peaceful years, until the eviction. I asked my dad, "How much?" $6,000. I actually sat down. Not because I couldn't afford it, because I could. That was the part that made me angry. I had spent years eating ramen, working double shifts, sleeping on a mattress on the floor while Kayla partied through her 20s posting beach photos and healing journey captions online. Now suddenly I was the emergency contact. I said, "Why can't she pay it?" My father sighed hard. "She's going through a difficult time." Of course she was. Kayla was always going through something. A breakup, a toxic friend, bad anxiety, wrong career path. Meanwhile, when I worked 14-hour shifts after college, my dad told me, "That's adulthood. Stop complaining." I told him no. Silence. Then his voice changed. Cold. "If your sister ends up homeless, that's on you." There it was. The family specialty. Turning neglect into guilt. An hour later, my mom texted me a long paragraph about family loyalty. Then Kayla finally called. Crying immediately. Not even subtle crying. Loud, dramatic crying. "I just need help getting back on my feet," she kept saying. I almost folded. Almost. Then she accidentally said something that stopped me cold. "Well, Dad already promised Melissa's parents we'd still host the engagement party here." I blinked. "Wait, what?" Silence. Then I realized they weren't trying to save Kayla. They were trying to save appearances. My sister's future in-laws were coming that weekend. Nobody could know she was getting evicted. I asked quietly, "So this is about the party?" Kayla started rambling excuses. That told me everything. I said I'd think about it. Then I hung up. 2 days later, my dad called again, furious. "Why haven't you sent the money?" I looked out my office window at the rain and said calmly, "I did." Dead silence. Then confusion. "What?" "I paid it yesterday." Instant relief flooded his voice. For 3 whole seconds, he sounded happier than he'd ever sounded talking to me. Then I added, "Just not to Kayla." Silence again. I could practically hear panic forming. I said, "I paid the landlord directly." Another pause. Then my father asked carefully, "Okay, so what's the problem?" I leaned back in my chair. "The landlord didn't know you promised people an engagement party." Nothing. So I told him. Still silence. Then I finished. "And apparently he mentioned it this morning when Melissa's parents came by to see the house." My dad exploded instantly, yelling, swearing, calling me vindictive. But underneath the anger was panic. Because for the first time, somebody outside the family saw the truth. Not the polished version. Not the Facebook version. The real version. Kayla crying in the background. My mom yelling at my dad. Chaos everywhere. I listened quietly until he finally shouted, "Why would you do this to your own family?" And honestly, the answer came out before I even thought about it. "Because none of you ever acted like I was part of it." Then I hung up. That night, my aunt called to tell me the engagement dinner got canceled. Melissa's parents apparently left early after learning Kayla hadn't paid rent in 5 months while pretending to renovate the house. The wedding was postponed a week later. Nobody in my family called me again after that. 3 months later, I bought a townhouse outside Seattle. Small place, big windows, quiet neighborhood. The first night there, I sat on the floor eating takeout beside unopened boxes while rain hit the windows. Nobody was yelling. Nobody needed money. Nobody was blaming me for problems I didn't create. And for the first time in my life, home actually felt peaceful.